if you start talking, he'll turn up the mic.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. My name's Laura Moran, and I work at the SF Chamber of Commerce. I have a background both in business and education, and I've been working with Change Catalyst to really promote STEM talent pathways for San Francisco youth and to these great companies that are part of San Francisco. So we have a group of people today that kind of represent the ecosystem, or the pathway, if you will, that students go through from SFUSD or any K-12 school district. And we're going to tell you our story about what we're doing, both business leaders, education leaders, civic leaders, to create strong pathways for our students. And we're really lucky. We have two of our students from Mission High School today on our panel. They're thrilled to be here. And we have some other really wonderful folks who are part of these students' lives, and they'll tell you a little bit about themselves. So what I'm going to do, the STEM Talent Pathway is a program of the Chamber of Commerce called Unite SF. And if you're interested in learning more about the STEM Talent Pathway, we have a new website called STEMTalentPathway.com, and you can learn more information about the whole initiative if you want to get involved. So I'm going to actually start, if there's a mic, with Landon Dickey, and he's going to tell you a little about himself and set the stage for the work we're talking about.
Great, thank you, Laura. So as was mentioned, my name is Landon Dickey. I'm the special assistant to the superintendent in the San Francisco Unified School District for African American Achievement and Leadership. And I was born and raised here in San Francisco, went through SFUSD public schools, and am now fortunate to work for the district. So just to provide a little bit of context, I'm also one of the point people on our citywide initiative, My Brother and Sister's Keeper. As many of you may know, it's also a national initiative that was launched by President Obama in the city of San Francisco. We're working with both young men and young women of color and supporting them. And part of the mission, or the core mission with My Brother and Sister's Keeper, is ensuring that we have cradle-to-career pathways to support our young people of color. And what we've done is really think about how to make that a reality here in the city of San Francisco. Just to provide a little bit of context, and my work focuses specifically on African American students. As I came into this role about 2 years ago, we were very frank and transparent about some of the data that we were facing. We had African American students graduating 64% over the course of 4 years, lower rates in terms of being eligible for the University of California and California State University system. And then we knew we had the larger macro issues within this city of median income for African Americans at $29,000 compared to over $100,000 for white people in this city, and only 2% of the tech workforce being African American people. So we, through some community engagement, we're really trying to think through how do we connect this work, how do we make it so we're seeing greater representation within tech and within the business community here in San Francisco. So we started this project and concept really called the My Brother and Sister's Keeper African American Post-Secondary Pathway. It's easy for pathway to be a buzz term, so we really tried to think of what does it mean to make a pathway a reality. And it started with a lot of partnerships, very entrepreneurial, and we're still hustling to build it out, but really thinking through ensuring that our African American students were supported once they graduated was our first step, working with organizations like Beyond 12 and Salesforce and our community-based organizations to wrap around and case manage those students once they were graduates, knowing that in order for our young people to ultimately be employed, they have to successfully persist through higher education and obtain a credential. Since then, we've also been working to build out a series of supports earlier in the pipeline for our students. So I now work with a great team of people, one of who's in the audience, Ms. Linda Jordan, who helps us starting at the high school level in making sure that our students know what it takes to be college eligible, starting in the 9th grade. We're working with our Black student unions to ensure students are getting exposure to STEM companies in grades 10 through 12. And along with the college coaching we provide access to, we're also working to provide financial aid support to our students through a partnership with Google.org and UAspire. So I'm trying to be succinct, so that's just a little bit of the background in terms of how we've started to make that a reality and how we're working to increase representation of our people of color, young people of color in the tech industry.
Thank you, Landon. And actually, one of the key parts of this pathway is we work very closely with City College. Teresa Rowland's here, who does their workforce programming, and also SF State, USF, and all the higher eds in San Francisco. And we then also follow and support our students who go out of city and out of state for college. So we're going to go to you next, DeAndre, and have you talk a little bit about your experience at Mission High School. And tell them a little bit about yourself and what you're up to and how you think about tech.
Hi, everyone. So my name is DeAndre Carr. I'm a senior at Mission High School. I went there all 4 years. I'm currently in a computer class right now, computer science at Mission High School. I took a computer art class my freshman year, and we just did graphs and stuff pretty much, and not really coding, but graphs with colors and stuff. And then for the computer science class, we're not really into the coding yet, but so far we just learned how to build a desktop computer. So we disassembled it, looked at all the parts and stuff, cleaned it, and then put it back together. And yeah.
And tell them a little bit about what you're thinking about for college and your career.
I wanted to go into some type of business. I don't know what kind of business I want to go into yet, but some type of business doing with the media and how it portrays African Americans in this society.
Great, thank you. And so now we're going to talk to Jim Ryan, who's our STEM education director, about what we're trying to do around computer science to create more access and equity.
When we started to think about in the district, how do we prepare students, the students who are attending our schools now, so that they can not only go to school here, but that they could live and thrive in the same city that they grow up in. We recognize that the STEM fields were one of the few fields that will allow them that opportunity. And yet what we were finding is that certain students had what we would call preparatory privilege. They'd go home and there was robotics, there were video games, there were that taught coding. They had somebody who was an engineer at home helping them understand what an engineer actually does rather than driving a train. And so we recognize that if we're going to address that STEM, the STEM gap, the ability of all of our students to access these fields, we had to start very young. A few years ago, Salesforce challenged us and said, why can't you double the number of students who are taking AP Computer Science in just a couple years? And we said, we'll take that challenge. And actually, we've tripled it in that same period of time. But if we double or triple it, and the makeup of that course looks the same as it has in the past, where it is 80% boys and primarily white and Asian students, that's still failure to us. So how do we address the whole system? And what we recognize is the way that you address the whole system is that you start in pre-K. And every student, we are embarking upon this. We haven't reached it yet, but every student starting in pre-K through 5 will receive 20 hours of computer science instruction. In middle school, they will receive between 45 and 90 hours of computer and science instruction, and all of our high schools will have robust computer science offerings. Where have we made it in the past year and a half since we embarked upon this? Well, I mentioned the AP Computer Science, but now every comprehensive high school in SFUSD has more than one computer science offering. So not only the AP courses, but also introductory courses. 45% of our students in middle grades are now taking a computer science course this year, and those students who are in that look like the students that we have as a whole. And so there is gender equity and there is ethnic equity across those courses. And this year, just second semester, we are embarking upon computer science instruction as a pilot program in 20 of our 75 elementary schools. So are we there yet? No. Is there a great deal of work to be done? Yes, but if somebody tells you tomorrow you have to climb Mount Everest, my answer is I better start walking now. And so that's what we've started on, and as a education community, we know that we can't do it alone, that it's actually the industries and the business partnerships that are going to allow us to get there as a whole city.
Great, thank you, Jim. And talking about those partnerships, so we're doing a lot. Actually, Jim's one of the best in the nation. He's developed a really innovative math curriculum, K-12, because a big part of STEM is math as well, along with computer science. And one of the things we're trying to do is share this curriculum with other school districts, so not every school district has to reinvent the wheel. But the other thing kids need is exposure and experience in the companies themselves to help them determine how to navigate their career. So we're going to go to Quincy, who's going to talk a little bit about the amazing experiences she's had these past 2 summers.
Hi, my name is Quincy Dominguez. I go to Mission High School. I'm currently a senior, and as she mentioned, I participated in Salesforce Summer for the past 2 summers, which means I got the exposure that I needed to these tech programs. So when I first went in, I was kind of confused as to what I was doing because I had no idea what Salesforce was, and I didn't know anything about the company at all. And I went in and I, told them my background, which was I had taken a class in coding. It was one of the first classes given at our school. And they're like, oh, that's amazing. So we're going to let you implement that in this program. So I actually worked on the website itself and helped rebrand things and change things, but all using coding. And this past year, the program knew me a bit more, and they realized, they're like, oh, you like the artsy side of things, so let's have you do coding as well as art. So I got to put these things called badges into the internal side of the company, which they're still using, and I also made a newsletter banner, which they are also still using, and it just helped me see that there's not all just coding in tech programs, and it really widened my horizons, and now that's something I'm thinking about doing when I get older. The advertisement and the art portions of the tech program, but also adding in that little bit of coding that'll help me get to where I want to be.
And Quincy, do you want to tell them a little bit about your college and career aspirations?
So I want to go into advertisement, primarily the art side of it. So I'm either going to go directly into advertisement or go into art with a sub of advertisement. And if that doesn't work out, I'm going to do journalism so I can still get on that path to at least being able to write advertisements or, something along those lines. And now I can still put my creative nature into whatever I do.
And one of the things Quincy told me, she's applying to a number of colleges, including Columbia, and one of the things we try to work on with our students is building their social network. So she's got a lot of contacts she made at Salesforce who are going to help her write letters of recommendation and coach her about the colleges that she's going to be applying for. So now I'm going to talk to Nikki from Salesforce, who's been our tremendous education leader and partner, and have you talk a little bit about the role Salesforce has played in partnership with us and with the STEM Talent Pathway community that we've been building over these last 3 or 4 years.
Great, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Nikki Lasley. I am the Associate Director of Education Initiatives for Salesforce.org. Just a quick show of hands. How many people know what Salesforce is and what they do? Okay, well, we are at a tech conference, so that's good. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if you didn't know. We are, so Salesforce.org is our nonprofit arm. We are a nonprofit social enterprise that uses our people, our product, and our revenue to help change the state of the world. Specifically in San Francisco and in the work that I do, I manage our education partners with San Francisco, which we've been partnering with for the last 4 years. We also have a partnership in Oakland with Oakland Unified and some national partnerships with STEM-based organizations such as Code.org, Girls Who Code, Black Girls Code, Hidden Genius Projects, and the like. In terms of this work, I'm super passionate about all the opportunities that we've been able to bring to San Francisco students, both in partnership with the school district, with providing funding to expand computer science in the middle schools and the high schools, deepening the math instruction and math supports in middle schools, as well as creating the program that Quincy was a part of, Salesforce Summer, which came out of a conversation that our CEO had with a group of BSU students. Were you there? You were there that day too. I'll just tell that story quickly. We had a group of students who, again, what is Salesforce? What does Salesforce do? Mark Benioff invited them over to our offices to get a tour and get a sense of what the company is like. Mark actually showed up at this tour and talked to the students for 45 minutes and offered them all jobs for the summer. And they're created the Salesforce Summer Program, which is a 6-week intensive where 2 weeks students get sort of soft skill training, how to look people in the eye, get firm handshake, how do you sort of give your elevator pitch, and use some basic office tools, as well as 4 weeks solidly working on a project, and that Quincy just talked about that. So those opportunities have led to a number of things. I know people worked on our big conference, Dreamforce, the parts of the website that are still being used, and that experience, I think, has really opened up a lot of doors for students who wouldn't have otherwise maybe thought about a career in tech or really considered Salesforce as an option or saw themselves at a company like Salesforce. So we've been doing a lot, and I'm excited about going forward.
Great. And one of the things that Nikki is part of, we've got 10 tech companies, Pinterest, Salesforce, LinkedIn, a number of others who have made a commitment to diversity and inclusion in hiring. But one of the things, and we have a scorecard where we're looking at how can we work together to increase graduation rate of our high school students and increase the number of students that pursue STEM careers and then persist either through City College, which as you know is a gateway to many of our CSU and UC systems. And so we're getting good at measuring graduation, persistence, internships. What we're not really great at measuring then is how many of those students actually get real jobs in the tech companies that we're partnering with. So Nikki and others from the tech companies that are on this pathway are really looking at how do we shift HR practices in terms of really opening up new pathways and seeing our local youth as one of the diversity strategies. So we're hoping more and more companies can do that as well. And maybe you could talk about that a little bit, Nikki.
Yeah, so my presence at this conference is twofold. I'm here representing Salesforce.org and the work we're doing with education, but my other hat that I wear is I'm the president of our Black employee resource group, Bold Force, and we work hard to increase diversity in the company and look at all of the different pathways, including youth, opportunity youth, re-entry candidates and whatnot. So we have been working hard to open up a dialogue with our human resources group, other hiring managers to really say, what are the barriers to getting these alternative populations into the workforce? The alternative in the sense that they haven't generally been considered viable candidates because they didn't fit the algorithm or whatever the case may be. And we are working really hard to open up that discussion so that we can come up with different pathways, including Salesforce Summer, including Future Force, which is our college internship program. And we recently signed a partnership with Code 2040 so that individuals have a number of different avenues to come into a company like Salesforce.
That's great. So before we open for questions, I did ask the students to prepare their thinking about what are 2 or 3 things they think that we can all do to improve inclusion and diversity in our tech and STEM companies in this field, and in particular, what are those things that we could do that would really speak to them and their experiences growing up here in San Francisco. So DeAndre, you want to start?
So my name is DeAndre again. I think we should first build the companies in all different communities, not in just certain areas where there's just money at. So downtown, there's a lot of money downtown, and there's a Salesforce company, right? So like we should build it in more different communities, and we should like change the like stereotype that only like when you watch like a tech company or a video, you see mainly like white people or like Asian people. Like people of color don't like. How do I explain? Like, sorry. Like you, like they don't like you. We us people of color have to feel like welcome to be in the tech company. Like we have to be like embraced to like want to be there, not just to get a check. Like we have to like actually like feel welcomed, and like as a home. Like when you're at home, you feel welcomed. We want to feel welcomed in the tech companies, and like be shown in the tech companies as like doing stuff like building projects, or like, because like often in the media we're not shown as like doing stuff for the tech companies or anything. So yeah.
Thank you. And Quincy, that's great.
So my word of advice is to think like a child playing at a playground, because children don't care what your skin color is or how you look or, you know, where you're from. They just care about, you know, if you're nice to me and, you know, let's play together. We're at the same playground. We obviously both belong here, so let's play and have fun. Let's go play together. Let's go do something. So if companies started thinking like that, then they wouldn't care about your skin color or, you know, where you came from in terms of like where you live and, you know, how you were raised. They'd only see the fact that you're nice as in terms of you have what we need, you have what we're looking for. So let's work together. Let's get stuff done. Let's hear your ideas and let's hear mine. Let's put them together and make something out of it. So
That's great. Thank you. So great hearing from our youth. And we just have is there anyone else on the panel, maybe Landon? What are things that you've seen that have worked that you'd like to encourage all of us to continue to do?
Yeah, I think that Salesforce is a great example of what's necessary to bring more of our youth into companies, which is really meeting us in the middle. So we know as a district we have to do more to prepare our young people for employment in these fields, but you have to meet us in the middle. You have to provide the opportunities for young people, for high school students, and college students to get access to those different fields, to receive that exposure, because our beliefs start to solidify early on in terms of what we're capable of, where we belong. So we have to start addressing and breaking down those mindsets as early as we possibly can. So more information, more opportunities to really pair our young people with companies, I think is critical to ultimately seeing greater diversity in the tech field.
Also, like, I think we should, like, more tech people should come to our schools and talk more about what their programs are doing, because, like, oftentimes there's, like, a lot of kids in school who don't know about any of the programs that are happening with tech or anything. So, like, more of the tech people should come into classes and just talk personally about, like, their experiences with the tech companies and, like, embrace the fact that they're in a tech company and try to get them to come into their tech company instead of just sitting at their office and just talking about the tech company.
Yeah, actually, I was going to say a very similar thing. If there are any tech companies in the room, I would say one thing that you could do is circle a school, adopt a school. Go to a school in your neighborhood and make a commitment to those students in the schools. They don't have to be high schools. High schools are great. We have circled 20 schools in San Francisco, elementary, middle, and high schools, and that's where your employees really can build a connection to the community. You can also build that interest that DeAndre was talking about in terms of getting students excited about working in tech, getting them excited about staying in school and working hard on those math classes. It's an easy thing that everyone can do, and it doesn't cost a lot of money.
Just as you see, we're all screaming agreement here. There's a difference in many times with an HR department and a company versus a school, and one of those is you're trying to identify talent that you would bring in. Well, we are trying to build the talent. And the ask is, come on in and help us build it. You guys know what you're identifying through, whether it be, as DeAndre mentioned, coming into classrooms or circling schools or helping us with curriculum design. These are all opportunities for us as a community to come together so that we build the talent that you can hire.
All right, let's give them a hand. It's a great panel. Thank you. So we have time for Q&A.
Great job, panel. Yes, we have a little bit of time for Q&A. I'm going to encourage so that we can get a number of questions, because if you guys are like me, I was taking notes on the side and I want to talk to people about some different things. So let's make sure we ask real brief questions and real brief answers so we get a few more questions in. And we have about 7-8 minutes for Q&A, and then we got to get everybody over to the other side for the last keynote. So I think I have a mic runner on this side. I might have lost my mic runner on this side, but if not, I will work my magic, and I'll be two places at one time. Here you go.
Thank you guys so much for your presentation. It's awesome. Are you seeing success or doing anything to connect students or young people in the San Francisco area to non-technical jobs in the tech sector? So when people think of the tech industry, they think it's all software engineers, when in reality, at least there's one non-technical or business-related job, whether it's a sales position or a project manager or an HR function for every engineering job. And it sounds like both of your experience up there on stage, you ended up in something that was not a software engineering position. So are you seeing any success connecting students into those types of roles or teaching them about those opportunities in tech as well?
Sure. I'll talk about the Salesforce summer program and actually also our school tours program that we just branded Trailblazers. I'm very excited about. So the Salesforce summer program was very organic. Like I mentioned before, Mark just said, you all have jobs, and we sort of had to create the program sort of around that. And so we went to a number of different managers and said, would you be willing to take a high school student for 4 weeks over the summer? And I think the other thing that I would say to companies that are in the audience, don't be afraid of bringing in high school interns. There are I talked to a lot of companies, and they're like, oh, I don't know, what are we going to get them to do? What can they do? They don't have, XYZ coding skills. Set. There's plenty of work to be done, and I think it's a great experience, as these students can attest. So we had managers in the marketing department, we had people in employee success, we had our sort of culture team, we had folks involved in finance, folks involved in even the real estate team who were interested in sort of like how do we model our buildings, and how do we make the environment sort of a place where people want to stay and work for really long hours, because we work really hard. So we opened it up. So there were a lot of different opportunities. The other pathway where we bring students in and give them exposure is our school tours program, which I just said is now called Trailblazers. Those are mostly middle school students, and we have volunteers. They come in, they do some sort of hands-on activity, but they also get to talk to employees from all different walks of life, who are, again, marketing, they're in HR, they're in PR, they are sometimes engineers with lit degrees. There's sometimes people with philosophy degrees that are now building the next Einstein artificial intelligence program that we just rolled out. So there's a lot of different ways that we try to bring students and have them have different experiences.
Hi, I had a question for Jim. Hey there. So as you're rolling out the plan to have kindergarten through 12th graders in SF public schools introduced to coding, where are the teachers coming from that are teaching that curriculum? So I know I'm in Detroit, and the work that I do is actually pushing into schools, finding external funding to get developers to teach youth, because there's not that capacity to take a full-time teacher out of the classroom or find a CS major who wants to teach. So I'm just curious if you can talk more about that.
Yeah, up to this point, it's been easy because we've taken the low-hanging fruit. So it hasn't been difficult. Now we are starting to reach a point where it is going to be difficult. And so we're lucky. We have a union that is behind this and also supporting us to do it and funding a position to help recruit teachers. But the thing that where we are working, what we're working towards now is we recognize that if the effort is solely to identify the science and math and computer science teachers and graduates that would want to come in or shift from math to computer science, we're going to be cannibalizing an already highly stressed teaching core that we can barely find enough math and science teachers as it is. So our effort currently, and we're finding some success, is that there are a great many English language arts and social science teachers teaching a teacher core that isn't as highly stressed as the others, that are interested and curious and saying, we're willing to learn more to take this on. And so it's a bit of a novel approach, but I think it's one of the only ones that is actually open to us.
Okay, so we have about time for one or two more quick questions. Anybody on this side? Okay, anybody? Oh, wait, I got one right here. I'll get this one, and then I'll get you next.
Hi, thank you for presenting. I'm Alex from Clarify, and I work in New York City. So my question is, do you feel that we can replicate the success that you've seen in SF in other major cities, but not only major cities, like other smaller cities as well?
Is that a Nikki question? It sounds like it. So we are actually in our first year of trying to not exactly replicate, because I think the thing that I would say about any sort of replication is that you need to recognize that each school district, every community is very different. But I will give you a couple examples. So we are now partnering in Oakland Unified, just across the bay, and rolling out similar supports around math in the middle school and computer science expansion in the middle schools and the high schools. So those are the things that we, at our core, we believe that if those students have access to, that we will build that pipeline of potential candidates going forward. Other programs, like the Circle of Schools programs, which we are replicating globally, where it doesn't take much effort. It's just about having the individuals who are committed to going into a school, committing time to volunteer and work with that other entity around whatever the needs are in that particular community. So this year, this academic year, we are now expanding the program from the 20 schools that we had in San Francisco, to 26 in the Bay Area, San Francisco and Oakland, and then 45 globally. So we have a school partnership in our Indianapolis office, one in our Atlanta office, Boston, and then the rest around the globe, a couple in Canada, Australia, and whatnot. So that's something that we have been able to replicate, and we have a basic playbook of saying, it's not rocket science. If you go in and you build a connection with a community, that will have long-term effects and will lead to larger partnerships going forward. And I think that that's one of the things we plan on doing.
My question is for Landon. I want to know if a tech company was going to connect with SFUSD and like commit their time. How would we even start that process? Is there any like red tape around it?
For a tech company to engage, so one is that within our strategy and fund development office, they're the ones that help coordinate Circle the Schools. So actually, if we can just connect after this, I can give you my contact information. I work closely with our strategy and fund development office. So there's a pretty straightforward entry point there when it comes to the Circle the Schools initiative. But I think as we think about internship programs and programs like Salesforce Summer, it was really a collaboration across multiple SFUSD departments. But if there's genuine interest there, I'm happy to take the lead in starting to bridge that conversation and leading a similar process to Salesforce Summer.
And actually, you can also, I actually worked with Landon and started the strategy and fund development at SFUSD to actually cut that red tape for businesses, because I think that's what we heard, that a lot of businesses said it was difficult to work with us. I'm now trying to take that work to the Chamber of Commerce and reach the 2,500 member companies there. So part of replication, the question before, I'm working with chambers of commerce across the state on using these kinds of models and promoting it. So we're also a good connection. And really between Landon, Nikki, and I, we can all help you get started, or anyone else that's here today.
Hi. Hello? Okay. Hi, thanks for the panel. It was really interesting, really exciting initiatives. I was wondering if there are any after-school programs that the school district offers or different high school offers for kids to, well, students, to work on projects. I know after Ferguson, I think there were like 3 African-American teenagers that actually created an app to report police and really interesting stuff, and it would be really cool to see if students could come up with interesting apps that affect their communities or their lives in some way.
Yeah, all of our schools have after-school programs, and many of them include some form of STEM learning, whether it be through a makerspace, some engineering challenges, or some computer science work, but not every single one of them. And after school, if you want students to continue to show up, you have to give them some latitude in what they choose. So it is it's not compulsory that they would engage in these activities, but it is available.
Personally, at Mission High School, we have Mission Bit, which is a tech program that goes on after school, and it really helps introduce kids to that tech industry and those tech things that you can do. It's free and it's after school. I'm not sure what days, but it teaches you like everything. You don't have to have any prior background. You can start from literally the beginning and work your way up from there. And the people are amazing. There's a lot of students doing it, so it's not like it's something that only nerdy kids do, or like you're really afraid to do because there's nobody else is doing it. A lot of kids actually do it, and a lot of kids love it, and it's really big in our school.
Actually, a lot of our computer science programming started in after-school programs, and we were really lucky to have a lot of companies from Google to Dropbox, others, coming into our schools and offering the after-school. One of the things we found is that it was only still reaching a small group of children, which is why we worked, we're so happy about Jim's work to make that accessible. And kids are creating apps and robots and really doing a lot of design thinking. We're putting a lot of maker spaces in our schools for kids. And a lot of that was supported with the innovation grants from Salesforce. So, but I do think, we've been really lucky with that, but we wanted to make sure 100% of kids got access to rigorous math and computer science as well. I also wanted to say we're also looking for internships for our college students, City College and SF State, who are partners with us. So if you're interested in working at the high school and college level, we can be a conduit for that as well. I think that might be it. Are we wrapped up or?
Time. All right. Yes, you're right on time. So thanks so much. Let's give them a hand for a great panel. You guys were awesome.